Hi, I'm Chris Lewis, firefighter for the Lakeville Fire Department. Welcome to another edition of On Call. The goal of this program is to educate and inform the citizens of Lakeville about how Lakeville's all-volunteer fire department trains and responds to emergencies. Let's take a look at what's coming up on this edition of On Call. We take a look at what happens when someone calls 911 for emergency services. Next, Chief Mike Meyers shows a unique training exercise for our firefighters. We answer a viewer's question and ask the firefighter. Then I will highlight some recent activity here at the fire department. And we wrap things up with Scratch the Fire Dog as he goes over some tips for you to be fire safe this holiday season. Have you ever wondered what it takes for first responders to be dispatched in an emergency? Here in Dakota County, we have a central call center called the Dakota Communications Center, which takes a new approach for getting fire, police, and paramedics to do the jobs they need to do. So on today's show, we thought it would be interesting to show you what happens when someone calls 911. So let's head over to Empire Township to the home of the Dakota Communications Center. We're here now with Cheryl Pritzloff, the Operations Director of the DCC. Cheryl, thanks for joining us on the show today.
Thanks, Chris.
So what can you tell us about your history with the dispatch career?
I started back in the late 80s with Edina, and then from there I went to Burnsville. I worked in Burnsville from 1990 till 2007 when we merged with, consolidated with the Dakota Communications Center here.
Okay, and so what is the DCC exactly?
DCC is basically a joint powers agreement between the 12 cities in Dakota County. Back in 2007, all 5 cities' police departments merged into one, and we began dispatching here.
So how were they dispatching before this?
They had their own police departments, did their own dispatching. We had Burnsville, Egan, Lakeville, Apple Valley, and Dakota County.
So if somebody called 911, they would get somebody in Lakeville or in Apple Valley.
Correct.
Okay, and so now you call 911 and everybody gets funneled here. Is that right?
Everybody comes here. All the calls are directed here. People call 911 from Lakeville or West St. Paul, Apple Valley, wherever they're calling from. All the calls are routed to the DCC.
But who runs the DCC?
DCC is run by Diane Lind as our executive director. I am the operations director. We have 7 supervisors, and then we have 52 dispatchers that operate the phones and the radio.
Okay, and then is it like a committee then that all meets and just makes decisions, or?
Correct. There's a committee of executive board. There's a board of directors. There's a law enforcement committee and a fire committee, and they all meet bi-monthly to discuss policies and make sure everybody's on board and everything works well for all the cities involved.
Okay, great. So then, who works inside? Do you have a number of people that work every shift? Is it people who worked dispatch before for the cities? Or?
All the dispatchers that we have came from their previous dispatch centers. We probably about 95 to 100% of the previous dispatchers from the 5 centers all came with us as we moved over here.
Okay, great. And then, so how many people would be on working right now?
Right now there's probably about 12 dispatchers. We usually, our minimums are between 8 and 10 dispatchers are minimums, but basically we have anywhere from 10 to 12 on any given shift.
Okay, great. And then can we go inside and take a look?
Sure, come on in.
All right.
Okay, Chris, this is the lobby of the DCC. It's a secure building, and over here we have some historical items that were brought with us from our previous dispatch centers.
Oh, this is fantastic. So, but if you say this is a secure building, public people just can't just walk right in.
Right, they have to buzz to get in.
Okay, so there's intercoms and outside.
Yep, intercoms outside.
Okay, fantastic. I mean, this is great. But can we go look at the dispatch floor? Or
sure.
Further parts. All right, Cheryl. So where are we at now?
This is the main floor of the dispatch center at the DCC.
Okay, great. So this is where all the calls come in and everybody works and sends them out to different
right.
agencies.
All the calls are received here and dispatched out of here.
Okay, great. So where are we going at now?
I'll bring up to Troy Ruby, one of our supervisors, and he can fill you in on the operations.
Well, fantastic. Thank you for joining us today and giving us an introduction to DCC. All right, now we're here with Troy Ruby. Troy, thanks for joining us today.
Sure, my pleasure.
Troy's a supervisor here at DCC, and somebody calls 911. Tell me what happens.
Well, actually, the call comes into the building and it presents at the workstation for a call taker to triage or assess. They will then code the call, and whether it's a law enforcement call or whether it's a fire call, they'll create the call by documenting all of the pertinent data into it and submitting it. And if it is a fire call, we'll get a copy of it that is sent to the law officer that works in that particular area, and then the fire response. So our fire dispatcher will get a copy of that call and then send out the appropriate response based on the type of fire and the location in the city.
Okay, so are the dispatchers organized in any way on the floor where it's like fire, police, medical or anything like that?
Sure. They are actually where fire is concerned. We have call takers that sit out here, and all they do is gather the information off the 911 calls and the non-emergency calls. They'll put it in. We have a dispatcher assigned to each of 3 law mains that we have. The county is broken down into 3 different zones for law enforcement response, and then we have our county divided east and west for fire response. So we have specific people sitting at fire dispatch positions, specific people sitting at law dispatcher positions, and then again the call takers that start the whole process.
Okay, so I see, we have some pretty amazing technology, and your desk looks very similar to the dispatchers. What do we look at? What do they have in front of them at their cubes?
Sure. Well, from left to right, actually, they have a touch screen phone, which automatically inputs the data into their CAD screen once they pick up on a call.
Okay.
But the other 5 monitors in the middle are really subject to the individual's preference when they're working. We need certain things set up there, of course, the CAD entry, and maybe the busy unit screen that tells you what the units in your particular zone are doing at that time, so you can check their status when they need to.
Okay.
There's some serious calls out there, and we want to be able to check on our officers in a couple minutes. And we've set parameters up inside our CAD system to notify us when to check on them.
Okay, fantastic. So you have, when somebody calls from like their cell phone or something like that, what kind of technologies do you have as far as mapping it or locations or anything like that?
Every time a call taker picks up on a 911 call, it's going to put a little red phone right on the map where that call is coming from. Okay. If it's a landline, it's going to be very specific. But if it's a cell phone call, which are very, very popular now, the majority of our calls are cell calls, it will put you plus or minus a certain number of meters depending upon the carrier. So the dispatcher has a very good idea for jurisdiction on a cell phone. They're getting almost as good as landlines these days with technology. They still have some room to improve, but they've come a long way. Okay. So they can be very specific.
All right, fantastic. So one thing, if somebody calls 911, what do they want to be able to relay? What information is really important, that would help the dispatcher the most to help the caller?
Well, actually, the incident location is most critical. If we know where something's happening, even if we don't know what it is, we can get some resources there.
Okay.
The dispatchers are trained to ask, what is the location of the emergency? And then secondly, what is the phone number you're calling from? We don't change that term or that phrasing up at all because we don't want to say what's your home number or what number can I get you at. It's what number are you calling from at that particular moment. So those 2 pieces of information are critical because if we have follow-up information that's needed to be gathered, we can then call them back. And sometimes it happens where we're dealing with a serious incident and the caller may disconnect. If we do get a structure fire, for instance, the first thing we're going to tell those people, evacuate the location and call us from a safe place. Evacuate the entire home and then call us when you get safe. And then we'll gather the information. But we've already started a fire response when we get those kinds of calls. The 2 pieces of information we need is what's going on and what's the incident location.
Okay.
And we can start start a response.
Okay, so if they can relay that to you calmly, or at least any
Calmly
way
is
possible,
good.
yeah, that's most important, and that's what you need.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Well, this has been great. I think we're going to go talk to one of your dispatchers,
Super.
Get a better, more detailed look. This is fantastic. I appreciate it. Thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. All right, now we're sitting with Rachel Keeler, who's a dispatcher and happens to be the dispatcher for Lakeville's Fire Channel today. Rachel, thanks for being on the show today.
Yeah.
What I've learned so far is somebody calls 911 and they get a call taker. And if that person determines that it's, say, a fire in Lakeville, they would kick the call over to you, am I right?
Yep.
So once you get the call, what do?
Well, when I get the call, it shows up on my computer and I find out the information, the address, what kind of fire call it is. And the computer lets me know who to page out. And then I page the correct station and personnel to go and assist the person.
Okay, so then at that point, that's when you send signals to our pagers.
Correct.
You know, day or night or whatever, and then our tones go off.
Yep.
So then I would get up and I'd go down to my station, or whoever is responding will go to their station, and then they're speaking with you as well.
Correct.
So at this point, are you still on the phone with the caller and fire?
Nope, at that time I'm just dedicated to fire personnel and whatever their needs are to help the situation.
Okay, so then say we're working on fires like I've been, where we need more personnel or more resources or whatever, and then I relay that to you, and then what do you do at this point then?
Luckily, our computer system's set up to let me know whatever situation it is. It'll tell me if you need another station to be paged out. It'll tell me which station or what kind of engine you might need, if you need a tanker truck or a water truck,
Okay.
that type of thing.
Okay, and then it also, depending on where it is on the map, it might not just be Lakeville. So like where we say you're dedicated to Lakeville, you're not dedicated to Lakeville, but say it's in the northwest corner of Lakeville, you might call Burnsville, depending on where the incident is. Is that correct?
Correct, yep.
Okay. What are we looking at here with all these screens and everything? What do you have in front of you?
Well, this is the fire screens that I have up, and it can be divided in Fire West, which covers Lakeville, and Fire East. I have a map that shows me the city and where all my units are.
So when you're covering the Maine West, the channel we like to call, is that Lakeville, Burnsville, Apple Valley, Egan, Rosemount,
Farmington.
and Farmington? Okay. So can you handle multiple calls at once?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
And how often do you see something like that?
Every day. I
Really?
mean, yeah,
Okay.
that's the thing. It can be really busy and it can be very slow, or we'll have one call at a time. But
Okay. I mean, is that one of the challenges of a job like this, or what else might you be looking at for difficulties?
Absolutely. There's many times when you get multiple calls, and each call is important to that person. And at one time I had 3 structure fires in 2 different cities at one time.
Okay.
So it can be challenging, yes.
So what could you do if all of a sudden you are getting overwhelmed with calls, in the dispatch facility here?
Oh, just grab another partner at any time, and just, your partners are aware of what's going on, and they can jump in and we can divide it up so that we can focus on individuals.
Okay, and so that would have to be a huge benefit versus before, where it was individual cities had their own thing, where you've got so many resources here to pull from and work with and stuff like that, right?
Absolutely, and if we have to work with more than one city, to be able to have the firefighters be able to talk to each other, it's a lot easier now that we're here.
Fantastic. Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Well, I hope you've learned what happens when you call 911 here in Dakota County and how our resources are dispatched. I'd like to thank everybody at the DCC for helping us out.
The curtain is going up for this year's season at the Lakeville Area Performing Arts Center. And this year, there's something for everyone. From a wide array of musical stylings to holiday seasonal performances, the Lakeville Area Arts Center offers the finest in regional entertainment. New this season, reserve seating for all performances. To find program descriptions and buy tickets online, visit our new website at www.lakevilleareaartscenter.com.
Hi, I'm Dan Lowe, a firefighter out of Station 2, and today's Ask the Firefighter question comes from Riley. He goes to Cherryview Elementary, and here's Riley with his question.
Hi, Firefighter Dan. I want to know, do fire hoses ever spring a leak?
Thanks for your question, Riley. Yes, fire hoses can and do occasionally leak. If a firefighter does notice a hose anytime during the year that is damaged, the hose is taken out of service. In addition, once a year, each fire station tests all their hoses. Every hose is connected to a truck where a high amount of water pressure is applied for a designated amount of time. The firefighters inspect the hoses and connection for damage or water leaking. Most hoses pass this test and continue to be used until they are scheduled to be replaced. But every once in a while, there is a hose that leaks and deemed not usable and then is taken out of service. Damaged hoses are thrown away or possibly used for non-emergency uses, such as park maintenance or the utility department. Thanks, Riley, for your question. If you have a question for Ask the Firefighter, send it using the information on the screen.
Welcome to another edition of Fire Chief Corner. I'm Mike Meyers, and tonight I'm joined by Brian Cluck, Lieutenant from Station 1. We're going to talk about what they're doing for training tonight with Station 1, but first I'm going to get a little information on Brian as far as his career with Lakeville Fire.
Thanks for having me tonight, Mike. I started my career with the Lakeville Fire Department in 1999 as a probationary firefighter. Started at Lakeville Fire Station 3, and a few years after that moved down to Lakeville Fire Station 1 and have since served as a firefighter, fire engineer, a lieutenant, and I had the opportunity to briefly serve as district chief for the fire department in charge of training. I currently do, as you mentioned again, serve as lieutenant. And this evening we're going to be working on firefighter safety and survival training. Okay,
I'm just going to ask a quick question for lieutenant position. What is your focus as far as lieutenant? What's your primary job? Or tonight we're talking about training, and how does that involve you as a lieutenant?
Okay, with the Lakeville Fire Department, the station lieutenants are tasked with training, organizing, and executing training for each individual station. There's 4 lieutenants, 1 for each station, and we work with District Chief Kilmartin in arranging training and making sure that our firefighters are as prepared as they need to be for any type of event we might have.
For tonight's training, we're at one of the local schools at the playground. So what is the title of our training, and more importantly, what are we trying to accomplish with this training?
Firefighter safety and survival. And essentially what we're working on here is we're working on getting our firefighters used to following the hose and following the couplings out of a structure if they were to get lost, disoriented, or need to somehow rescue themselves in an emergency situation. So what we do is something actually very simple from the grocery room shelf. We have Glad Press and Seal. We'll put this over the top of the mask, and what it essentially creates, and I'll turn this here so you can look inside, it creates basically a smoky, foggy environment. So it's, they can still see, they still get light input, but it's very difficult to see what's around them. So they can find their way out rather than using their eyes, because obviously if you're in a heavy smoke environment, vision is going to be cut down greatly, and that's using your eyes to see out is not going to be an option. This obviously is not one of our normal venues for training. One of our Station 3 lieutenants, Lieutenant Jeff Anderson, had stumbled upon the idea of training at a local playground based off of a YouTube video actually that another fire department had been using. And they posted it, and we got an opportunity to look at it, and Station 3 tried it, had excellent results, very good feedback, and this evening we've decided to try it here at Station 1 and see what the results are.
Okay, and this is, I guess, going back in training as far as when you started as a rookie firefighter, this was 101 firefighting for us as far as training, that learn how to orientate yourself if you find the hose, which way to get yourself out in case you ever have to. Correct. So this just adds to that skill as far as going back to the basics of learning Correct. Your way out, orientating yourself inside of a building when you become lost.
Correct. It is really back to basics, just with a little bit of a challenge thrown in there with the playground equipment that they have here.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me for Chief's Corner, explaining what we're doing at a playground for training. It seems odd, but like you said, there's all different methods of training, and the book is wide open as far as different items that we can do, and it's great that we use YouTube to find some different ideas and truly challenge our firefighters to different venues of training.
It is, yes.
Now let's take a look at some recent activity around the fire department. Here's a story that's a good reminder about the risks when burning leaves. A homeowner was burning leaves in early September and thought the fire was extinguished as he went inside his home. Moments later, his backyard was on fire. Lakeville police and firefighters from Station 1 responded to the scene and put out the fire before it got to a freshly cut farm field. This is a good reminder that burning leaves can be dangerous and is illegal in the city. A great alternative to burning is to mulch your leaves or use collection services from your waste hauler. Also in early September, a porch caught fire in the Country View Mobile Home Park in eastern Lakeville. No one was hurt in the incident, but significant damage was done to the outside of the residence. This fire has been investigated and it was determined that a discarded cigarette was the cause of the fire. LFD responded to a report of a garbage dumpster on fire at the Casperson boat launch on the western side of Lake Marion in mid-September. When first responders arrived, they found trash burning in the dumpster and quickly put the fire out. The cause of the fire was undetermined. Emergency personnel also responded to a vehicle fire on September 27th near the Lakeville Bowl in downtown Lakeville. Arson is the cause of the fire and the case is still under investigation. Significant damage was done to the car and no one was injured in the incident. There is a $1,000 reward for information leading to the arrest of the person or persons that were involved. If you have information on this arson case, please call Fire Administration or the Lakeville Police Department. In early October, LFD responded to a structure fire in southern Lakeville along 215th Street west of Dodd Boulevard. When crews arrived, they found a large garage on fire and quickly worked to control it. The fire was extinguished, but there was significant damage done to the structure. No one was harmed in this incident, and the cause of the fire is undetermined. Recently, 2 veteran firefighters were recognized for their service to the Lakeville Fire Department. During the October 15th City Council meeting, Lynette Ansel from Station 4 and John Kraus from Station 1 received their shadow boxes to commemorate each over 20 years of service. This also marks the first female firefighter to retire with over 20 years of service to the Lakeville Fire Department. A special thanks goes out to both Lynette and John from all of us here at LFD on their retirements. Now here are some of the latest numbers for the fire department. As you can see, incident numbers are down for both the quarter and for the year. The department's goal is to distribute call volume evenly between each station. And finally, congratulations go out to everybody that works on and everyone that has helped with the creation of our show, LFD On Call, as we recently won an Emmy at this year's Upper Midwest Emmy Gala. We beat shows from other organizations, including Twin Cities Public Television's Almanac at the Capitol, a political program from the Star Tribune, and others in the politics and government category. LFD has had Emmy nominations in the past, but this is the first Emmy win for the show. Another program that is produced by the city, Lakeville Kids in Government, also won an Emmy in the Children's 12 and Under category. And a third Emmy was awarded to Jim Schiffman for his work on the Lakeville Kids in Government show in the on-camera talent performer narrator category. And that is some of the latest activity around the fire department.
Scratch the fire dog, cause I like to scratch out the fires. Hey, it's a time for us to talk about fire safety around the holidays. So we're gonna be talking about holiday safety tips, and to help me with this is my good friend, Mr. Squirrel. How are you today, Mr. Squirrel? Ah, very good. Hey, you got all your nuts buried for the winter? Ah, very good. Yeah, you don't want to starve during the winter weather season because there won't be any food for you, right? Hey, so you up to talk about fire safety? All right, well, let's first talk about cooking safety during the holidays. And keep anything that can catch fire, pot holders, oven mitts, wooden utensils, paper or plastic bags, food packaging, towels, or curtains away from your stovetop. Keep the stovetop, burners, and oven clean. Keep pets, like Mr. Squirrel, off cooking surfaces and nearby countertops to prevent them from knocking things onto the burner. Wear short, close-fitting, or tightly rolled sleeves when cooking. Looser clothing can dangle onto stove burners and catch fire if it comes into contact with a gas flame or electric burner. Hey, Mr. Squirrel, what happened? You got enormously huge. Did you take one of those giganto pills? Oh, it was just a camera trick. You are so clever there, Mr. Squirrel. Hey, how about if we talk about turkey fryer safety during the holidays? Do you ever fry turkeys, Mr. Squirrel? I love to fry up squirrels sometimes. Oh, that's a good. Oh, don't worry. I haven't really done that. It's okay. Hey, we got a cool video here to show you the dangers of using a turkey fryer, especially if the turkeys are frozen. Hey, Mr. Squirrel, did you know that Underwriters Laboratory considers turkey fryers to be dangerous to use, presenting numerous safety hazards to consumers, and has decided not to certify any turkey fryers with their trusted UL mark? Now, many units easily tip over, spill the hot oil from the cooking pot. Now, if the cooking pot is overfilled with oil, the oil may spill out of the unit when the turkey is placed into the cooking pot. Oil may hit the burner or flames, causing a fire to engulf the entire unit. Oh, look at just like in that video, Mr. Squirrel. Partially frozen turkeys placed into the fryer can cause a spillover effect. This too may result in an extensive fire. With no thermostat controls, the units also have the potential to overheat the oil to the point of a combustion. The lid and handles on the side of the cooking pot get dangerously hot, posing severe burn hazards. Oh, Mr. Squirrel, wasn't that some very impressive video? Yeah, you want to make sure that you do not use a turkey fryer. Yeah, they're very, very dangerous. Do you like to cook stuff? Oh, what's your favorite thing to cook? Oh, hot dogs with anchovy sauce. Good choice, Mr. Squirrel. Well, the next thing we should talk about is holiday trees. You know, they can burn very quickly if you don't water them and take proper care of them. Did you know that, Mr. Squirrel? Have you ever had a holiday tree? Oh, you've lived in one, huh? Oh, very good. Well, hey, let's look at some more video here showing what happens with a tree that's been well taken care of and one that's completely dried out. Okay, now, Mr. Squirrel, now you see on the left is a tree that's not dried out, and on the right is one that's very dried out. Now they're gonna light it up. Now let's see how long it takes for it to... Oh my goodness, Mr. Squirrel! Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Look at that tree, it's going up in flames. Do you imagine if that was in your house, Mr. Squirrel? You'd have to get out of there very quick. Oh yeah, dry trees inside a home are very, very dangerous. Do not place your tree close to a heat source, including a fireplace or heat vent. The heat will dry out the tree, causing it to be more easily ignited by the heat, flame, or sparks. Never put tree branches or needles in a fireplace or wood-burning stove. When the tree becomes dry, discard it properly. The best way to dispose of your tree is by taking it to a recycling center or having it hauled away by your waste hauler. Oh, that was a very exciting video, wasn't it, Mr. Squirrel? Hey, is there anything you'd like to talk about as far as holiday safety goes? Oh, that's a very important point, Mr. Squirrel. Mr. Squirrel wants to talk about holiday light safety. Go for it, Mr. Squirrel. Wait a minute, Mr. Squirrel. Mr. Squirrel. Mr. Squirrel! Nobody else out there speaks squirrel, so I better do it. I'm sorry. That's all right. Just sit back and relax. Inspect holiday lights each year for frayed wires, bare spots, gaps in insulation, broken or cracked sockets, and excessive kinking or wear before putting them up. Use only lighting listed by an approved testing laboratory. Make sure you do not overload your electric outlets, Mr. Squirrel. Do not link more than 3 light strands unless the directions indicate it is safe to do so. And finally, make sure you periodically check the wire. They should not be warm to the touch. Oh, Mr. Squirrel, that was some very interesting facts and tips for all of us to have a happy and safe holiday season. You gonna have a happy and safe holiday season, Mr. Squirrel? Yeah, you know, sometimes you don't talk much, and other times you won't keep your trap shut. Hey, you guys out there, this is a Scratch the Fire Dog along with... Yeah, Mr. Squirrel. We'll see you next time on Kids Corner. And remember, Scratch the Fire Dog loves to scratch out the fires. Hey, let's leave everybody with a good holiday tune. Happy holidays. Happy holidays. It's a very Merry Christmas. And we're gonna fry up some squirrel tonight. Oh! Just a kidding, Mr. Squirrel. Scratch, I'm just a kidder.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of On Call. If you have questions, comments, an idea for the program, or want to send a question in for Ask the Firefighter, feel free to call us at 952-985-4700 or use the email address at the bottom of your screen. Thanks for joining us, and all fire units are clear.
Would you do this in your home? How about this? And you certainly wouldn't do this. Then why would you do this? Careless smoking is the #1 cause of fire fatalities. You can protect your family and your home from fire. Visit GetYourButtOutside.com. Brought to you by the Minnesota State Fire Chiefs Association and the Minnesota Fair Plan.